what's up, everybody? Quick little tech tip here for you today. So, I'm using these as a point of comparison. So, before you buy a hole saw, consider the following. When you buy a Lennox, Starrett, DeWalt, any of the other private label stuff you find at like Lowe's, Home Depot, Harbor Freight, you are buying what's called a bimetal blade, and I'm using this as an example. You're going to get something similar to this, except it's not going to be flat, it's going to be round. What this means is you have 14 teeth per inch bimetal. Bimetal means that this part of the tool, all of it, is basically a cheap steel, and the very, very tip, the very cutting edge, or that little millimeter up top. Well, hello, kitties. Are you gonna come help? No, of course you're not. Get out of here. Get out of here. You're not a cutting tool expert. You're not a cutting tool expert. You just think you're the expert on everything. Now come on, get out of here. Sorry. But when you look at a hole saw like this, okay, this actually has a steel body and carbide cutting teeth. Now, the reason this is vastly superior to this, it comes down to hardness. It does not come down to sharpness or manufacturing process or anything. This is made out of cheap steel, and this cutting tooth is made out of what we would call, let's say, like a tool steel, something like that, or a high-speed steel. However, when you get carbide cutting teeth, what happens is when the saw is cutting and cutting chips, there is a tremendous amount of heat being built up on the very edge of the blade. And when you're cutting, let's say, a piece of tubing, you're not flooding it with proper machine coolant, right? This is not going to be engulfed in a cutting oil or a cutting fluid that dissipates heat and adds lubricity. And so what happens then, you get extreme heat buildup on the edge. And because this saw blade is not made out of carbide, it's going to dull this cutting edge pretty quickly. The difference here is because these are actually tungsten carbide cutting teeth, you now have something that is roughly 10 times as hard as this. And with that hardness comes the ability to absorb and dissipate heat. And that is why when you're going to drill through, let's say, a 1/4 inch thick square tube and you want to put a hole in it, a hole saw, a typical bimetal hole saw, is going to give you a couple of holes and you're going to start seeing some teeth getting mangled. Whereas something like this, because of its extreme heat resistance, is going to stay sharper longer. So these are quite a bit more expensive than a hole saw. But let's say you're preparing a car like a race car and you want to put a bunch of holes in the frame to lighten it up, and you want to put a bunch of holes in different heavy pieces of metal to take weight out of the car, you will save a tremendous amount of money by using a saw like this, a hole saw like this, than you will over a bimetal type blade. These can also be called annular cutters or slugger cutters. Mag drills are coming down in price quite a bit. I'm kind of half tempted to buy one myself. Annular cutters are really, really good, and mag drills are really, really good. They cut steel tubing like butter. Also, with something like this, you can even attempt to notch the tubing, whereas with a bimetal blade, it's not going to happen. It's going to flex too much and deform. So anyway, kind of a tech tip for today. If you plan on putting some holes in some relatively thick pieces of steel, buy once, cry once. Get yourself a carbide tipped hole saw instead of a bimetal hole saw. There is a price difference, but I promise you this will last a lot longer and probably cut faster. All right, that's about all I got for today.